I saw, did you get bit recently by a dog?
Yeah, first bite. First big bite. I'll say first puncture. You know, everyone gets nipped at and, you know, maybe a little teeth, but nothing major. I've had my fair share of nipping and redirection, but I've never had a full-on puncture like that. It was a good time.
What happened?
Good time. So it was this couple that reached out to me. Gosh, when was that? Probably in August, maybe September. It was late summer. And they had given me a very good description of the issues they were dealing with. They have 2 dogs, both Staffy mixes, but one, I swear it has a little Malinois in it. The other one, I don't know, it'd be like a lab pit mix, who knows? But both rescue dogs, both very overstimulated, very reactive. And the other one, the one that did not bite me, she was just more so reactive, wasn't aggressive. Mm-hmm. And then the one that did bite me, I don't even really want to say aggressive, but just so freaking fearful, like so fearful. And the issue was mom's in a wheelchair, has been most of her life. So nothing new to the dogs. And there's three or 4 kids, older, you know, but just a lot going on in the house and no structure, no rules, no boundaries whatsoever. The dogs aren't really taken out often because they were so reactive. And a lot of the reactivity was stemming from kind of guarding mom, trying to get around the wheelchair, under the wheelchair. And, you know, she can only control so much of that situation, especially at the time they were both on harnesses. And I'm like, oh my God, these dogs are just going to like pull you down the street. Sure. You know, they're giving you all the power. And I remember specifically when we met, they actually came to my house, which normally I don't do like meet and greets at my house, but because of the situation, they lived almost 30 minutes away. I had them come to me and I couldn't even get within 20 or 30 feet of this dog. Mm-hmm. And it was losing its mind. And we talked for probably 45 minutes and I was able to get close to the other dog. And she would take food from me and let me take the leash. But that all just kept setting the other dog off more and more and more. Yeah. And so I immediately was like, all right, let's talk muzzle conditioning. I'm going to send you guys videos. This is your homework before we can get started. Da, 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 da. And they had a daughter who was home for a winter break at the time because we didn't start until like November because I was so far booked out. And so we started in November. That gave them 2 months to work on the muzzle conditioning. I sent them many videos on how to do it. And I told them, you know, reach out if you have any questions or if you're having any issues. And they had a daughter that's in school for psychology and she had a natural skill set. I remember at our first lesson, I was like, have you ever worked with dogs before? She was like, no, I just really enjoy it. Like I enjoy learning all that. I'm in school for psychology. And I was like, you're a natural. Like, if you want a summer internship, girl, hit me up. You know, like she was just really good and she was super invested and like wanted to learn. And so she was doing a lot of the muzzle conditioning with the dog. Mm-hmm. But the dog, the one that bit me, is very fearful of anything coming around the neck, like slip lead, collar, whatever. And so to get the dog to even want to approach the muzzle, they had to cover it in a towel first. Sure. Because without the towel around it, it was like absolutely not, and trying to even bite the owners. And so eventually they were able to get him to stick his nose in with the towel. And then, you know, I wasn't able to get them to progress into getting the full clip around the neck to keep the muzzle on. And so fast forward to our first lesson, I was like, all right, where are we at with the muzzle? And they were like, we can't get it on him. We've tried so hard. Da, da, da. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to be able to get on him. I can't even get within 20 feet of this dog, you know? And I was like, I cannot get my hands on this dog unless it's muzzled. I can't. And they were like, we completely understand that. And I said, so here's option B. And this is where I fucked up. I was like, so we got 2 dogs. We got 6 people. We can copycat train. I'm going to work with this dog. I need to do exactly what I'm doing with this dog, with that dog. Sure. And for the first 3 lessons, it worked great. Mm-hmm. It worked great. I mean, yes, were the dogs kind of stemming off of each other and freaking out when I first showed up? Sure. Yeah, but as soon as I started working the one and the other one just realized I was just going to ignore it, it became neutral over the course of, you know, an hour or so. Yeah. And the family was able to work with their dog just fine, you know, and he would get a little nippy. Like, I wouldn't even say he was trying to redirect, but when they would go to leash him up or collar him up, he would,
Sure.
and just kind of, nibble, but way, way less than anything he was trying to do with me 20 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, all right, you guys are going to be the one that has to do all this. And they were fine with it. And, each week I would say, where are we at with the muzzle conditioning? Where are we at with the muzzle conditioning? Because I told them, I was like, I really can't start shifting his mindset to want to trust me and to learn that that's, he doesn't need to bite when he's fearful and all these things until he's muzzled. And I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we totally get it. And so I think it was lesson 3 or lesson 4. Lesson 4. It was a rainy day, kind of, we had shifted things inside, and I wanted to see kind of the setup because we had been working on place. We had been talking about tethered decompression. They weren't crating the dogs, so we brought the crates back into the situation, and they said both dogs immediately took right to the crates, and they love their crates. And I was like,
yep.
Yeah, no shit. They probably have no safe space in this house. They have no idea what's going on. So bringing the crates back helped a lot. So I remember walking in, and both dogs were on leash. Both dogs were on their prong collars. That was the day we were starting e-collar, and the whole lesson went great. We had introduced the e-collars to the one dog so that they could introduce it to the other dog. And it was like 5 minutes before I was walking out the door, and fucking FedEx shows up and did boo, 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 boo. And so everyone, of course, the scenario is there's one dog, the bite dog is further back in the living room. The one I'm working with is closer to the door. Mm-hmm. And I had my back turned to the bite dog, and shit happens. The leash slipped out of her hand because she got scared. Of course, the dog got scared. So he's and she gets scared. The leash slips out of her fingers, and he just gets me right in the back of the leg. Oof. And I had my back turned, so I didn't see it coming. And my body was relaxed because I didn't know it was going to happen. So that's good, at least, because he just bit me and then immediately ran back to his place and laid down. Uh-huh. So, full on fear bite. He's not like trying to like maul me or hang on and shake or anything. He just bit and ran. And for, the next 15 minutes while I was there cleaning it up and kind of trying to talk to the owner, like, it's okay. Shit happens. This isn't your fault. Whatever. She felt terrible. It was the girl that is in school for psychology, and she felt absolutely terrible. And she's like, oh my God, she's not going to let me shadow her anymore. And you could see all the wheels spinning in her head, and she's like starting to shut down and cry. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. You're good. We've got to move on from this. Like, look, he's laying down. He knows he fucked up. Like, we can't do anything about it right now, but it is what it is. I need to go clean my leg up. Yeah. And so I remember going to the bathroom and, looking at it, and I was like, okay, this is pretty bad. It looked like someone just took 2 pins and stabbed him right in the back. And luckily, amazingly, the pants that I was wearing, no holes. Like real stretchy leggings. Of course, they were tight, which is why the bite was probably as bad as it was, because I had no fabric loose around my leg. It was right on the leg. Yeah. And it just went in and out, and there are still no holes in those pants. And everyone's like, you need to write a review on those leggings. Like, that's seriously amazing. But I mean, it scarred up pretty good, and it hurt like a bitch to clean out, but it was definitely a good learning experience. Yeah. Because I told them, I said, okay. So, because of course, well, he's never bit anybody. He's never punctured anybody. Yeah. And I'm like, well, he has now.
That's funny.
So then fast forward, they felt really bad, of course. And I told them, it's a shitty situation, but this is why we muzzle dogs, and, accidents happen, and we're all going to learn from this. I was like, I'm not going to bail on you guys. You guys have been great clients. Yeah. Like, you are invested into these dogs. You're always asking questions and involved during lessons. You're not just sitting back and letting me do all the work. Like, I want to help you guys, because they had told me other trainers, when they heard about the dogs or saw the dogs, either told them to euthanize them or they just wouldn't show up and come back. Yeah. And like, that's really shitty, but at the same time, it doesn't surprise me. And so I told them, I said, look, no matter what, the next time I come back, this dog is in a muzzle. Yeah. And they were like, absolutely. Absolutely. I get it. And I'm like, yeah. So even if you do have to force it on him, which I don't like doing,
Sure.
It is what it is at this point. If you want me to continue to work with this dog, because we now see that even if I'm not the one working with him, it can still happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. So fast forward a week, I show up, muzzle's not on the dog.
Ah!
And I was like, my body immediately just starts, nervous system takes over. And I'm just like, so why isn't he muzzled? And they're like, we couldn't get it on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how many times are we gonna have to have this conversation? You know, like I can't get it on him.
Yeah.
And they tell me like he'll stick his nose in and all of these things. And I've seen them collar him up and leash him up and he's okay. Like, and I'm like, that's all you have to do with the muzzle.
Yeah.
It's the same shit. And why you saw me get full on punctured. Why are you so afraid of getting nipped? Like ball up and do it.
Yeah.
And so they were like, we're really sorry. And I was like, all right. Well, I drove out here. Yeah. So we're going to do this lesson, but he's going to be back tied to your wheelchair while we do this because I'm not playing any games.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, that's fine. And that whole lesson went great. Again, no issues. But by the end of it, mom was walking both dogs loose leash on her wheelchair by herself.
Yep.
And it was great. But then I told her, I was like, look, I'm not going to lie to you. This whole PTSD thing is real. And the way my body responded when I showed up and saw that dog not in a muzzle, I can't do that again. And she was very understanding and she was like, okay. And so I told them, let me know when you get the muzzle on the dog and I'll come back. And so instead they were like, well, we'd rather just you not work with Wes anymore and just work with Mona. And we're just going to do one-on-ones with Mona from here on out. And so that's what we've been doing. And, you know, they're supposed to be applying everything that we're doing with this one dog to the other. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're starting to introduce triggers to the new dog who doesn't have to be muzzled, but she's now redirecting because of the triggers. So we've talked about muzzling her, and I just don't know if they have the heart to do it. Yeah. And I'm like, look, but the dogs that you have and the issues that they're having, you have to. Yeah. And then they want to talk about boarding. And I'm like, no one is going to board these dogs for you until you get them muzzled. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, I can't imagine them being in a muzzle for a week. And I'm like, I mean, they can eat, they can drink water, they can pant. Yeah. You know, it is what it is. But if nobody can get their hands on this dog, it's the only option. And you can tell that they don't like that, but it is what it is. So I don't know what they're going to do about that.
Past that, in like 99% of circumstances where you need to muzzle a dog for boarding, like usually they don't need it past the first 24 hours or so.
Right. And that's what I told him. I was like, once the dog is muzzled and it learns that it can't bite, and then it realizes that that person that they're with or that area that they're at is the only way that they're going to survive. Yeah. Yeah, we are probably going to get the muzzle off because they are a big trigger of the dog. Yeah, yeah. And once they're taken out of the equation, I'm sure the dog is going to flip the switch, you know. Yeah. But I can't even get to that point because they won't get the muzzle on the dog.